You got your like heat scheduled to not kick on until like 2:30.
I got no control over it.
Oh, it's freezing in here.
People over there freaking control it.
I have my coat on while you were talking there.
And it used to be back where I was at.
Is it hot back there?
It's about 10 degrees colder,
Oh, jeez.
right next to a window.
Yeah, that's terrible. Oh yeah, I remember. Your windows don't even shut all the way.
Joke.
Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the Restoring Human podcast, where we believe humans were designed to flourish. Unfortunately, we live in a culture where many of our modern conveniences prevent us from thriving. But through intentional lifestyle decisions, we can return to an optimal state of health. I am Jarek Bakken,
I'm Dr. Alex Arguello.
and we've got a human topic for you today. Not that all of them aren't human topics, but the question is, what is the optimal human body weight? And maybe not, body weight's probably a bad way to phrase that, but composition? Yeah. We've been focused on, the New Year's resolution of losing weight, getting healthy. We can see what overweight looks like and point that out fairly easily. But what's optimal? I mean, so I guess we can dig into what is overweight, what kind of the downfalls of that are, and why we want to be working towards something more optimal. But then what is optimal? Should we be shredded and see everybody's every vein, or what? Yeah.
Well, so I think there probably is an optimal body composition. I think it's somewhat like temperature and blood pressure and those type of things that are those are kind of averages that they know is somewhat of a healthy state. It's not that everybody has to have 120 over 80 blood pressure. Everybody has to have 98.6 temperature.
Mm-hmm.
There's of course a range there of what could be healthy and what's considered that person's healthy. But again, I haven't really looked at to see exactly what the body composition was of like the hunter, herder, gatherer type people that we've referred to in the past. But I know they were pretty lean.
Yeah.
I know there was no signs of being overweight. For sure no signs of obesity, which then means when that stuff's not happening, then the same thing that leads to obesity and being overweight is basically bad hormone function. So then now heart disease, diabetes, cancers, and all the other stuff that is from bad hormone function, bad physiology. Those people didn't experience a lot of that stuff either. So composition is not necessarily the most important thing to look at if you're going to say this person's going to be healthy, but it is a good indicator of how healthy and how much longevity somebody's actually going to have.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a low percentage of body fat on your body, then you're going to live longer, you're going to be healthier, you're going to thrive more than somebody who's going to have a higher body fat percentage. So yeah, lower body fat percentage, higher muscle percentage. That's kind of ideally what we want, as opposed to like the BMI thing, where they give you a number based off of just your weight and height. Then somebody that is like an NFL football linebacker might be in the obese range when they're, in amazing shape and shredded, like you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking at body, just basically what I was saying there is, body composition probably is what we want to be talking about. That would be what we'd want to direct people to be paying attention to.
Yeah. So there is like a line though. Okay, so you were saying how, I don't know when it was, we were talking about fat and how, like, our body's basically mechanism for storing fat, like, we do that because it's this energy that we have the ability to store. And so looking at, hunter-gatherers, it probably was a little bit of a variable thing in times when, food is in abundance. They might have a little higher, uh, you know, body fat percentage
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to when you're going long periods of times of fasting and that type of stuff. Is like, do you think we should be a little dynamic, or should we be aiming to like be pretty like flatline all the time?
That's a good question. I mean, you're right. They were dynamic, right? Especially probably around this time of year, colder times where they weren't going to have as much food available and certain types of food available. They were going to allow themselves to have more body fat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for again back to the warming thing, to stay warm, but also because they're to stay alive, to survive. We're not in really those times where we need to be preparing for winter type stuff to,
Sure.
to like put on more fat, maybe to stay warm, but
It's freezing.
most people that live today don't have to worry about putting on more fat to stay warm, of course. So most people, I think, are listening to this saying, okay, well, if I'm at a good body fat composition, I probably don't need to increase the amount of fat to get to a better composition. I need to lower the amount of fat, most likely, to
Mm-hmm.
get to a better composition. But yeah, I would never recommend like you go down to like 1, 2, 3% body fat. That's definitely not a healthy place to be. Specifically for women, this is one of the issues that with like CrossFit women, like competitor type women,
Mm-hmm.
that just get completely shredded. I don't necessarily think that that's probably a good idea for hormonal health
Mm-hmm.
to be like that. Just because to get to that level, you have to be producing high levels of a hormone that is more abundant in men,
Mm-hmm.
and men have more receptors for that, called testosterone, to be able to get to that level. So you're throwing off your
Yeah.
estrogen levels, progesterone levels, especially if a woman is planning to get pregnant. That's going to potentially cause an issue there. So there's definitely some downside to being too low body fat percentage. But again, most people don't have that problem. And I don't think we need to get into the kind of, we still should be dynamic in a sense,
Yeah.
but we don't necessarily have to focus on it because there's not that time of famine
Yeah.
that people typically used to have.
Yeah. So I think, well, the whole women and the CrossFit thing, I think one of the major, like, major issues with being at such a low body fat percentage is really more of the lifestyle required to do so. Like, you got to be crazy strict, and so like some of those guys, they're kind of in the position where they're doing so much work that, like, in their 24-hour days, like, with sleep and training and eating, it's like those things add up to a point where, like, their body is very, very low on stored energy,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, to be a human, to have a job, have a family, all these other things that we see as really good things, it's like there's a major imbalance in life to create that type of body composition.
Right.
Like, it requires it.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, there's negative parts of getting there, but I think even just being in that state is also for sure not a healthy thing for you. So as far as like general ranges, I think men, Anywhere from 10 to around 18% body fat, I think is kind of traditionally what is considered healthy. Women, of course, because there's breast tissue, and specifically for even the hormone, they have different levels of hormones. They're going to have they're okay. They can be in a healthy state having a higher percentage of body fat. So then that kind of starts around 17, 18, goes up. Some charts even show 30%. So, mid 20s, low 20s, I think you're going to be fine. Athletes can be more than that. Again, 15% for women, 8-9% for men. I think, maintaining that, not getting to the lifestyle to try to, force yourself to get there, but that's kind of somewhere where you want to shoot. And I think it's probably more of a long-term goal of getting to that position for sure.
So what does that look like? Like, should you see muscles? Should you see veins? Like, I don't know, just something you say 10%, 18% body fat, like what does that really look like? We can see somebody who has an abundance of fat, but like that percentage is, very, very large spectrum there.
Yeah. I think for sure for men, seeing more musculature is kind of a sign that you're in a good body fat percentage.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about this, I think, with my kids. They were wondering what do you got to do to get abs? So they were saying, should we do more sit-ups? And I was like, well, Emma was talking to them about it, basically saying she doesn't think that sit-ups is the best way to get abs. So they were asking me, and I said, well, obviously any sort of core type exercise is going to strengthen your core, sit-ups being one of them. But how you get abs is you're through nutrition,
Right.
basically.
Right.
This is how you lean, how much body fat you actually have. Because I had a friend in high school who was just totally He-Man shredded, but he could bench like 95 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His core was terrible.
Yeah.
But he was just
Right.
musculature everywhere.
Right.
So, and then I had friends I had a friend in college that just kind of looked sloppy, but his core strength was just
Super
unbelievable.
strong, yeah.
Could do that thing that you were talking about, that Dave, whatever.
Oh, yeah. High level
or
gymnastic
Dave.
stuff.
I was thinking Castro, Glassman guy. So yeah, I think seeing some abs, seeing musculature, the whole veins thing. That's just I feel like that's more genetic. Just are you vascular type thing. Of course, you can do some things to make yourself more vascular, but I don't think that that's necessarily a sign of health. I think that's just more of a sign of your genetics. But so the more musculature that you actually have, again, if you're doing the other stuff the right way, if you're have your caloric intake correct, if you're the macronutrients, you're getting the macronutrients that you need, the micronutrients that you need, you should be having more. As you're building muscle, your fat percentage should be coming down. So that's another reason why you want to be seeing muscle, because if you're adding muscle, then your fat percentage should be coming down.
Yeah.
The other thing that plays into that is visceral fat. So that's the fat that's around your organs. That's typically one of the last things to change. Like if somebody is making changes and they're decreasing their body fat percentage, that'll come down a little bit with the body fat. But basically, your body is going to kind of get rid of the other fat sometimes before the visceral fat. So that might be the last thing that shows. But those are the people that maybe don't have fat around their butt or on their arms like other people do, but they have the fat that's building around the organs. So they might look like they're not overweight or obese, of course, but it doesn't mean that being skinny is the right body composition either.
Because so while we've talked about how getting to a point of obesity requires, some sort of density from different types of food. On the other hand, it's not like seeing somebody who appears to have a low percentage of body fat, like while you're healthy in quotes compared to some standards, like it's not a very robust mark of health.
No, not at all. And again, if you're just going off of look, see what that person's body composition is, or even if they're stepping on a scale and they're seeing what they weigh, that's still missing the fact of what do they have any muscle on their body, but also what's their visceral fat percentage? Do they have is more fat building around their organs where we don't really want it? Then that could just be a sign that they're skinny, but they're still very unhealthy.
Yeah. So we're talking about body composition. We're talking a lot about percentage of body fat, but I guess on the other side of that, like what's a reasonable amount of like strength and muscle, and how does that composition play into optimal health? Because there's definitely a point where like you can't do certain things if you don't have the strength to do it,
Right. As far as like a percentage, I don't know what.
And maybe not a percentage, but just like practically, like.
Right. Right. I can't remember who it was, but some kind of old time, maybe Jack LaLanne, kind of the old fitness guy.
Oh boy.
Basically, he was saying, if I can do 60 push-ups when I'm 80 years old, I'm probably not going to die of some health issue. Basically, it's totally destroyed whatever he said. Paraphrase the crap out of it, but
yeah,
that's kind of what he was saying. Like if I have and muscle, the amount of muscle on your body is a huge indicator of how healthy somebody is. So if somebody's muscles wasting away, that person, basically has a higher chance. So their morbidity, mortality rate just skyrockets because there's falls that can happen because they don't have the musculature. Again, their body fat percentage most likely is going to go up if they have lower muscle fat percentage. So then that's going to lead to the insulin resistant stuff, inflammation. So just really any sort of chronic disease. The more muscle, again, this is not an indicator on it by itself. It's not like you just go and get really muscular and now you're healthy, because we wouldn't say that like bodybuilding is necessarily the healthiest thing. But generally, having definitely a higher muscle percentage, being able to do functional movements, no matter how old you are, that's going to be a good indicator of health. So can you squat? Can you sit down and get up? Musculature in your legs to be able to allow you to do that. Can you walk? Right? Can you still jog? Can you do a push-up? Can you do a pull-up? That would be awesome if you could do a pull-up when you're getting up there. But yeah, those are all signs, of course. He's right. Jack LaLanne's right. If I can do pull-ups and push-ups and squats when I'm in my 60s, 70s, and 80s, I'm most likely I'm going to die of an accident probably. I'm not going to die of heart disease or something like that.
Mike Bergner, weightlifting guy, he's talking about he's got a group of old dudes who he works out with, and they've got these like geezer strength challenge things they do on people's birthdays. And what he got challenged to do, I think he's 72. He got challenged to max pull-ups in an hour.
Oh, nice.
And he did like 360 or something like that.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that's aspirations there. What about the other end of the spectrum? Is there a point where like you can be too big, like too much muscle mass?
Yeah, I would say so, again, because I don't necessarily know the research on like having too much muscle mass and the negative health effects that could have, and nothing's really coming to my mind right now. But I would go more back to what you said of kind of the lifestyle that it would take to actually get there is going to be unhealthy. Just because you're going to have to. One of the things they know that's been studied is the best predictor of longevity is caloric restriction. Basically, people that eat less calories live way longer than people that eat more calories. If I'm going to be some huge, bodybuilding type guy that has all this muscle mass, that's coming from eating a lot of calories.
Right.
So eating all those calories, yes, it got you to all this muscle, which, yes, muscle's a good thing. But if you've done that for a long, extended period of time, then you're kind of working against the main thing we know that allows people to live longer, which is caloric restriction. So,
Yeah.
Plus just I feel like it'd be stressful to always be working out all the time and basically you're either working out or you're eating to get there.
Yeah. So
or you're taking stuff that we know is unhealthy.
True.
Which is
True.
illegal stuff that's going to get you there.
So for, I think, a common misconception with a lot of ladies getting into strength training and even CrossFit is like, oh, I don't want to get big and bulky. And it's like, I'm telling you right now, we do things to try to get there, and it's a lot more work than,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Well, and I mean, that's just the whole, so men get there because they produce a ton of testosterone and they have a lot of testosterone receptors. Women can produce a lot of testosterone, but they don't have all the receptors that men have, so they're not going to get huge and bulky. Like the women that have gotten there, they've done something to again,
Sure.
not natural to actually get to that point. A woman typically is never going to get there.
Sure. Cool. This was good. I didn't know we'd have that much to say about it. But anything else on body composition?
No, just kind of, again, highlight again, I think most people we talk to are going to want to lose weight, so they're going to try to lower their fat percentage to get to a better body composition. But highlighting, just because you are not overweight or not obese does not mean that you don't need to worry about body composition.
Right.
Putting more muscle on your body,
Right.
getting less fat, getting less visceral fat, those are all indicators of good health. So, yeah, pay attention to that.
Yeah, because if we're aiming for health, there's definitely a good amount of people who, like, they need to build some muscle, you know?
Yeah.
And like that is moving towards optimal health.
Right.
And that might mean gaining weight.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the last thought that I had there is when we talk about body composition, we're talking about, I guess specific things that you can measure. What's great about what we teach is if you just did things right, all this stuff would take care of itself, getting more insulin sensitive as opposed to insulin resistant, decreasing inflammation in your body, avoiding heart disease, all these different things that we can say this is why we're doing that stuff. If you just lived like humans used to live, ate real food, exercised, slept well, avoided toxicity, stress management, all those different things, then you're going to get to a good body composition. So it's not like if you look at your body composition, you're like, crap, I'm not there. I need to do something specific. Well, it's just live the right lifestyle. Eventually, your body composition is going to get there. So it's more of am I living the right lifestyle as opposed to am I in the right body composition is kind of how we would want you to think about it.
Yeah. Cool. Sweet. Thank you. Tune in next time. Yeah, I don't know where this will fall in our order of stuff, but Alex mentioned whenever it was we were at the gym that there will be a fitness weight loss guided challenge type thing that we're planning to take part in. I'll more than likely, I don't know all the details. Again, this is good stuff. More than likely be one of those coaches and guides for that time, but we're going to be talking with one of the guys from the gym, getting more details about that, and yeah, inviting any of our audience to partake in that. So
sweet.
cool. Later.
Peace out.